we've effectively increased the connectivity bandwidth 20-fold, right? And decreased, the cost of internet connectivity 4-fold, right? And it continues to be kind of in a downward mode.
Hello, welcome to ITWeb TV. My name is Kabelo Makwane. So majority of us have all turned to search on Google for one thing or another, or YouTube for a how-to guide on something. And I'm sure some of us have also dabbled with Google's AI model, Gemini. So who better to talk to us about the Google business than the country director for South Africa, Kabelo Makwane. Hello, Kabelo.
Hi, Simnikiwe.
How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here,
Thank
and
you.
thanks for gracing us. Kabelo, you are not new to big tech firms, having held roles at Accenture, of Vodacom Business, Microsoft, but now you are the country director for Google South Africa.
Yes.
So can you just tell us more about, what sets this Google role different to the previous roles that you've previously held?
Yeah, Simnikiwe, it's a great question because oftentimes when you look at opportunities to join organizations, you first look at, I guess, like I do, I look at alignment with my values, first and foremost, but also then more importantly, in terms of the type of work that I'll be doing, is there an opportunity within that organization to forge partnerships, to actually make a meaningful impact, to do meaningful work. And for me, joining Google presented exactly that opportunity. Google is an organization that is really strong around forming partnerships, creating ecosystems, and also, collaborating with different sectors of society as they innovate and, what they're familiarly known for, innovate and produce products and develop solutions and technology that people love and want to use all the time. It's the reason for existence. There is raison d'être, as I say, right, in French, which is, organize the world's information, make it universally accessible and useful. But tech is a big enabler for how we do that.
And tech obviously has brought us the AI boom. And I recently read in our sister publication Brainstorm's cover story with you on the cover that one of your KPIs is making sure that Africa doesn't get left behind with the AI boom.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? Or talk to us in terms of what that looks like for the continent.
There are a couple of fundamental things that we need to, double down on as far as making AI inclusive in the African continent. Things that, we as leaders in these organizations are tasked with and also have to be, let's call it, live up to that expectation, right? The first one is around infrastructure. Without infrastructure, unfortunately, none of these technologies would be possible. And we're talking here in terms of connectivity infrastructure, in terms of the GPUs that run these large language models, making sure that they're available to the markets that we serve. And then secondly, there's a piece of it which is absolutely about localization. So once we deploy the infrastructure, that which works for, let's call it international markets, the US and other markets, Europe, etc., may not necessarily be immediately, replicable. So there is a big portion of it which is about localization. Evidently, with AI, this has actually become front and center because you are training a language model, a conversational model, to understand local context, local dialect, and how people, local culture. And therefore, part of the journey with a localization with AI is making sure that we localize in languages as well. So our Waxall project is now effectively incorporated 21 African languages. We've got over 2,500 different
Dialects.
languages and dialects, right? And therefore, the task is a mammoth one, but we had to choose those ones which are, let's call them, the more popularly spoken languages, like, isiZulu in South Africa, isiSotho, Sesotho, Afrikaans, English is already there. Xhosa, and those types of languages. And then Swahili, Yoruba, Igbo, some of the other languages that are popularly spoken in the rest of Africa. So it was that approach that we took. Beyond languages, there's also the element of capacity. And when I talk about capacity, it's just capacity creation for the economies that we operate in to digest this technology and let alone digest, but make gainful use of it, right? Because if people don't understand how to interact with this tech, then obviously they won't be able to use it, right? So you create a barrier to access in a different kind of way, right? You've solved for it in terms of infrastructure, but then the barrier becomes something else. So it's important for us to create the awareness, let alone then the training, and create avenues for people to find those skills, right? That's why if you open the internet these days on social media, you see a plethora of different people talking about this training or that kind of capability, building that's available. And from a Google perspective, we made Gemini Pro available for free to students for a whole year. And to that extent, we were quite intentional also, because it was aligned with some of the work we're doing with, academia, tertiary institutions. From a basic education perspective, we've partnered with, NPOs and training institutions that focus on R to 12. And our target there is to reach, at least within, the next 3 years, over 210,000, grade R to 12 learners with this tech. And the approach is just, kind of taking the trainer approach as well. We've specifically targeted training teachers so that in turn they can incorporate this as part and parcel of the normal teaching and learning process, in the way that general, productivity tools are being taught in school today, right? We see that in the same light. Yeah.
And there's no fear in terms of, from a teacher perspective that, I've got so much on my plate, I still have to learn now how to use this new tool, this Gemini Pro tool that I'm not familiar with. Then, it's new tech, and then there's being scared of it. So how do we then break that barrier for the teachers who are ultimately going to be the ones that have to impart this knowledge to the younger generation?
Yeah, it's a great question, because on the contrary, what we see is actually the exact opposite.
Okay.
Everyone is curious about AI in the main, right? People are just like curious about what is this going to do for me, and then there's also a lot of fear mongering in some cases about it. The other, let's call it push factor for teachers, is that students are using this tech, on their mobile phones and things like that. So they bring it into the classroom regardless. And so for us, the task is less of convincing the teachers. It's more actually about enabling them, right? To how do they embrace it, and how do they then incorporate it as part and parcel of the teaching and learning process? Because to shun it, unfortunately, is to create an even bigger barrier between yourselves and the students who are using this technology. The responsibility of the teacher, as with all other subject matter, is to provide that guidance, on how best, to optimize the use. Yeah.
Kabelo, I want to go back to your point around localization and languages. So what does that look like? So if Google is working to provide all these terms and terminologies in the languages that people speak every day, what does it actually look like? Like
Yeah.
what is being
Practically,
practically, what
yeah.
is being done?
Yeah.
Is it a matter of just translating the
Yeah.
terms, or are we actually training the models in isiXhosa, for example,
Yeah.
to be able to, if
Yeah.
someone from back home doesn't know how to translate this in English, then they'll be able to type it out
Yeah.
in their own
So
language.
yeah, I mean, again, in practical terms, what it entails, and I'm part of also what we call our dog food internal programs. So what we do is you take the baseline, algorithms and language models, which are typically in English. We've partnered with, fortunately for South Africa, it's a lot easier than other parts of the continent, where they don't have, specific bodies that look into things like language preservation. So in South Africa, we've partnered with the Pan-African South African Language Board, PanSALB, right? And we're working with translators who not only translate in terms of transliteration. I've learned some interesting terminology, but also they do cultural translation. So when you translate a word in English into isiZulu, it doesn't lose the cultural ethos behind it. And in vernacular languages, particularly, you get a lot of words with ambivalent meanings, right? And so you don't want to use the word in out of context. So these models need to be trained and be aware of those nuances. When we started, we actually took like just 100 words, and there was just a lexica of 100 words. Just it created so much debate with the language translators in moving that word from an English word into an isiZulu word or an Afrikaans word because of these nuances, right? And so that partnership has served us well, just in terms of how we accelerate that process, but also do it in a way that is acceptable in terms of language standards in South Africa. Elsewhere across the rest of the continent, we've had to find like-minded individuals in academia or in other sort of organizations that have a cultural ethos or flavor, and work with them. It's almost like if I'm being very crass about it, it's like taking a child and teaching them a new language and getting them to understand the syllables and how to correctly pronounce a word and to use it in the right context. Don't use swear words, and that kind of thing. So it's the same process, yeah. But it's been very interesting, very fulfilling.
And in terms of user facing, how do they then act? What does that look like for me as the user? Where do I interact with these translated terminologies and stuff?
Yeah, so so when you are in AI mode and using Gemini on your, let's call it on your search browser, for instance, right? And you've switched on AI mode, so you basically you then effectively choose the option of the language you want to use. It's that simple. It's not a complex process. It's like search in in the back in the days when you started to translate search, and you could toggle between English and other types of languages. I mean, today you can search for words in Setswana on a search browser, right? And you'll get the correct meaning. So it's the same type of or similar type of approach, and you then converse with the AI, tool in your own preferred language.
I'm going to try it out.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
And give us feedback, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'll try and do that as well. So ideally, what are you guys' short-term targets around the translation of moving some of these terminologies into languages that are understood by the majority?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we started with a very small set of languages just to kind of see where let's call it the gremlins are, and figure out what the challenges are. It helped a lot that we had these partnerships. But our target, we've identified 21 languages across Africa that we think if we are able to train the models in those specific languages, we will cover the majority of the population across the country, because like there's nuances in dialects, but if you cover the main languages, and with time, who knows, it will evolve, right? And more languages will get added. But just for purposes of practicality, it's 21 languages that span across the sub-Saharan context.
Okay.
Yeah. Arabic is already there as well.
Yeah.
It's actually something that was also designed at launch with from the US point of view. So fortunately, we don't have to worry about North Africa too much. Yeah.
Kabelo, you've been country director for Google South Africa for over a year, and
Yes.
now you marked a year in January.
Yeah, we counted in quarters, 5 quarters.
Oh, is
yeah.
it? That's good. So, what's the strategic focus for Google South Africa for like the 3 to 5 year, in the next 3 to 5 years, particularly when you look at South Africa's digital transformation ambitions, as well as establishing the country's competitiveness?
Yeah, so as part and parcel of our sort of Build for Africa plan, and South Africa being a very significant component of that, last year we launched the Google region, the Google Cloud region, and that from let's call it bringing cloud technology and localization of cloud technology was an important step. So with that, I think comes the opportunity for us to continue to localize a lot of the technologies that we have. So investing in in building out local infrastructure is a strategic focus area for us over the next 3 years or so. 2030, right?
Okay.
The second thing, which is super important, is from that infrastructure investment, connectivity becomes an indispensable part of that investment. Since we effectively built the submarine system, the Equiano cable system, as you know, and landed it across the shoreline, we've effectively increased the connectivity bandwidth 20-fold, right? And increased and decreased, the cost of internet connectivity 4-fold, right? And it continues to be kind of in a downward mode. And so with that, the target, therefore, strategically is to provide even greater access, particularly to previously sort of marginalized communities. Our initiatives are intentionally let's call it rural centric, so rural and peri-urban centric. When I spoke about the 210,000 learners that we want to reach, we are intentionally targeting the rural community, let's call it schools and communities in that context. So that's it's access and inclusive access to these technologies. The third element is and you prefaced with it at the beginning of the talk, which is how do we make sure that we move from just being consumers of technology to actually being participants and innovators in this space, because AI creates that opportunity again. We have these inflection points in tech. Like it's the internet age, it's the cloud era, and so on and so forth. And AI is that inflection point. And for us, what particularly for me, in terms of what I'm passionate about, is to make sure that we have innovators and people that can actually create businesses, create gainful endeavors, on the back of these platforms, that is also exportable to the rest of the world, right? And the platforms, because of the scale and reach from a global perspective, present that opportunity. In the same way that, we popularized Jerusalem during COVID lockdown, through YouTube. It's that kind of thing, thinking about how do you reach over 2 billion daily active users using Google platforms and create innovations that will be commercially viable. We saw that actually when last year we had a our AI in Action summit mid-year last year, which was hugely oversubscribed. Cape Town, we had 2 versions of it in Cape Town and here in Joburg. And just the excitement, and also to see some of the early stage innovators from creatives, people who are in the, let's call it creative space, in gaming, content creation, etc. Some of the cool stuff that they're already doing with these platforms, using technologies like VO3, for instance, to accelerate the production process around, video imagery, was quite, encouraging to see. 2 things that are, slightly more on the serious side, and people who are working in the health space and coming up with innovations using AI as an accelerator for providing access to healthcare services.
So, Kabelo, you've mentioned quite a few, but I just want to hear from you in terms of, Google South Africa. Where are you guys placing your bets in terms of, are you in the local market? Is it cloud, AI, YouTube, or like other platforms? Where are you guys looking?
Yeah, so it's all of the above and some. I mean, if you think about Google in the context of if you think about Google in the context of Alphabet, there's certain things that are not yet available in the local market. For those folks who have had the opportunity to visit Mountain View, they would have experienced Waymo, which is an autonomous, driverless e-hailing service. We haven't landed Waymo in our markets for various reasons.
Don't
right?
get to autonomous e-hailing when we're still having to deal with
we're still dealing with the current. But there's lots of different innovations and technologies that have yet to find their way to our local market. And so with what we've launched in the market, my job is to advocate for all the other pieces of what makes Google a compelling proposition to industry, SMEs, innovators, creators, marketers, executive techpreneurs, and the like, an appealing value proposition. So that's ideally, I want to land the full basket, right? And so the big bet, I think what we're seeing, maybe just in terms of, by way of direction, in terms of trends, we're seeing a huge actual uptake and growth in what we call connected TV. So people are kind of doing what we term the 4 S's. They are searching, scrolling, streaming, and shopping, right? In terms of the typical consumer behavior. If you think about your life, when you finish work today, when you go home, first thing is going to be, which one is the nearest Nando's I can go buy, dinner for my family, and then, through that whole journey, you are searching for the store. You then basically look at what's on the menu and you shop, right? And by the time you get there, you can just pick up and go. It's the behavior. It's kind of, especially in the urban areas, that's how people are living. So being able to be part of that consumer journey is quite important. But extend that to let's call it self-help or how-to guides, right? Using YouTube, and YouTube in the home, right? So it's gone. YouTube has moved from people just listening to their favorite Amapiano mixtape, on their TV, to actually getting cooking recipes and DIY how-to guidance, et cetera, et cetera. So as a platform, we're seeing a lot of that uptake, and it's kind of growing. I mean, in South Africa alone, we have over now 6 million daily active users on YouTube, right? And YouTube connected TV is growing quite phenomenally. And long play, on average, here's a stat that will surprise you, is on average people watch 6 hours of, the typical South African watches 6 hours of YouTube on average per day.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
so I was.
It's a lot of YouTube.
It's a lot of YouTube, but obviously in different forms and for different purposes. Video content has become, quite popular on social media platforms. People like to watch videos as opposed to static things or read text. Yeah.
Video did kill the radio star, because look at us now. We're doing a video interview.
Podcast.
For you. Kabelo, you mentioned a key word around SMEs. I just want to hear how is Google South Africa engaging SMEs, like the SME local space or market? Yeah.
Yeah, that part of the let's call it from a market segment perspective, super important for us because that's where you find a lot of the innovators as well. So through, for instance, Grow with Google, we make a lot of training and certifications, in terms of our tools and capabilities available to SMEs. We also have Google for Startups, and every year we basically have cohorts every quarter that we take on board that will effectively go through a training program which incorporates both soft skills as well as tech skills, but it's very tech biased. We enable them to actually be tech savvy. One of my favorite ones of all time since I joined was seeing this lady who basically takes, fast fashion is one of the biggest polluters globally right now. I think she identified that this is a market opportunity worth $2 billion and a global scale because of the disposal of fast fashion and environmentally unfriendly disposal of fast fashion. So she's basically taken on the opportunity and takes that, the clothing items that are being disposed of and remodels them and redesigns them using AI tools. So and her business is just flying. So I mean, if you think about that, it's like innovation everywhere. But she was discovered through Google for Startups. There's also Google Hustle Academy, and Google Hustle Academy is literally, as the term says, it's for the hustler, the side hustlers, right? Bring your hustle, and often every now and again, we put out adverts, etc., for people who want to join the Hustle Academy, and we work in collaboration with training institutions and NPOs as well for scale. We want to do a lot, things at scale, and to reach as many people and as many audiences as we can. So we work with like-minded stakeholders around those things. From an SME perspective, the objective is also beyond, let's call it, helping them to further their business. It's also helping SMEs reduce cost and also become more efficient. As you know, if you're a startup, a small business owner, you are the Swiss Army knife of everything. You are the accountant, you are the salesperson, you are the operations person, you are everything, right? So incorporating our tools actually lend themselves well to how SMEs can actually operate quite efficiently, self-manage. Simple things like calendaring and managing your appointments and your schedule, to fit into a 24-hour day makes a big difference.
You also mentioned, the Google Cloud region, but I just want to hear from you in terms of how aggressively are you guys targeting South African enterprises versus what your competitors are doing?
Yeah, we are aggressive, but we also are quite measured in the things that bring value to customers, right? The first point of call for us is the meeting of minds around what value we can deliver. We talk about, like, for instance, it's a small thing, but when I joined Google and I heard customers being referred to as partners as opposed to customers, that was just such a pleasant small change to how we approach engagements with industry, right? So I mean, recently we worked with Discovery on the Vitality AI project, and Discovery is like literally supercharging how they do proactive medical insurance administration. So effectively, with the wearables, that Discovery already integrates a lot of their insurance schemes with, they will be able to now preemptively tell you if you're about to have a heart attack, or you've developed some sort of, ailment of some sort that may incapacitate you using data analytics, and it's built on the cloud, on Google Cloud platform with Google Analytics using sort of BigQuery and those types of technologies. So we like those types of engagements that deliver value. We also, have a strategic partnership that we've, that's public now with Vodacom, supporting their business from, a customer value management perspective and customer service point of view. I think we're all familiar with the frustration of trying to reach our mobile network operators when we need help, and support with our phones, right? So they're quite focused on improving their customer service from their perspective, but it requires them to have the right customer insights, data insights to support customers more effectively and also be more efficient at doing that. The traditional contact center, you phone and you listen to some lobby room is not a good experience. And now, if you could actually interact and without, kind of opening the kimono too much on their project, but and if you can interact, with the conversational model that understands you and understands and also interact in your own language and can actually solve, in a thinking mode as with a human, that would significantly accelerate. Because right now, a lot of the mobile network operators struggle with managing volume, right? No matter how many agents they put in there, they just cannot deal with the amount of volume of incoming calls, inbound calls. So that's enabling that to be a little bit more efficient and give you as a user a better experience. That's just to name one or two, right? There's a few other big endeavors. There's one that actually I like because it kind of almost like stitches all of Google together, right? Which is with First Rand Group, where they've been using a lot of our sort of Google marketing platform for, let's call it, sales and driving leads generation and all of that. But now they're actually kind of extending it all the way to our cloud platform and looking at opportunities for how they can create a connected user journey, but also access new markets in terms of how they service retail, banking clients and across different segments. There's private banking, there's, and so on, which is quite interesting as well. Yeah. So lots of cool stuff going on. One more, because it would be remiss of me to talk about this without talking about things that we're doing also with government, right?
You literally, I was.
Did I take the words out of your mouth? I'm sorry.
You've spoken about a telco. You've spoken about the bank. So what? Financial services industry. What's happening in the public sector space?
So with government, we are very, very firmly engaged with government. In fact, last week we launched the Liquid G Studio in collaboration with Liquid, and we had the minister there to also grace us, and really what that is intended to do is to actually be for public sector officials. It's actually to bring to life the digital public infrastructure that government has been talking about. So we've set it up, and it's AI driven. It's actually all the use cases, from cradle to grave type of thing. So birth ID to grave, how you stitch a user, a citizen's, kind of journey from birth, is there, right? Tax administration and all of that. License registrations, and vehicle administration is there. Healthcare services, patient record systems are there, right? Social grant systems are set up, and it's all, let's call it, embedded natively with AI, and having the ability to have a digital platform and interacting, agent on the palm of your hand through your mobile phone. Imagine being able to access citizen services that efficiently. This is what most people have been asking for a very, very long time. So we are very, very excited about how we can support government's endeavor, because it really is a public sector and government project. Bringing that Mzansi, type of approach to life.
To life,
Yeah.
Because we've been hearing a lot about it, but what does it actually look like when it
Yeah.
materializes?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to hear more regarding, whether further plans around, local data center or like cloud region expansion. What is Google thinking around that?
Yeah, look, in the short term, we've just launched the region, so we need to it's only give it time. So, and I think as it progresses, we'll look at opportunities of what that expansion looks like. But in the short term, we have no immediate plans to launch a second region or anything of that sort. It's how we actually efficiently optimize and utilize the current investment, and of course, with growth, who knows? Yeah,
anything's possible.
Yeah.
Tell us first, eh?
Yes, absolutely.
Just also, we know that last year there was some issues around with the Competition Commission.
Yes.
When Google was ordered to pay the 668 million to support local media.
Yeah.
How is that translated?
We embraced the opportunity to participate, and also just engage and find a sort of a meaningful solution, an amicable and meaningful solution with the Compcom. The discussions are always, quite robust, needless to say, but we are proud to say that, relative to, let's call it the sector of the media that was in view, we've actually come up with a solution that we believe stands to benefit South Africa as much as, complying with the media inquiry pieces. In actual fact, it's closer to 680 million that we're talking about. And already we have started with roadshows targeting far-flung media houses and sort of, let's call it publishing houses, enabling them, but also looking at opportunities on how we can then administer the grants, because there's a piece of this which is around supporting in cash, the digital transformation journey of these different media houses. If you think about it in the context of how much, like, the volume, the real, quantifiable volume of search data, it's small relative to the envelope that we put forward. But the approach we're taking is more of a long-term approach that says, the way I talk to the notion of how people are consuming data, let alone, publications. So journalism stays as a very important part of the media industry. However, how you present the content and how you make it available to people has to transform, because people are looking at things like overviews as opposed to the full article, right? So there's a piece of this which is, how do we direct, that traffic back to the journalist, the publication house that produced that, right? Which we are doing, and so we've introduced banners, which is a South African flag for any content that is South African produced on our search engines, so people can know that actually this is a South African, article, right, or publication. Beyond that, I spoke about effectively getting all those media houses into a program to help them with how they can actually transform, their craft, right, from a digital transformation perspective, and that is also work that is already started and it's underway. We are engaged with the big, publishing houses, as well as the small community radios and publication, that are in far-flung places. and for us, it's quite an important endeavor in how we help the digital transformation journey. I spoke about capacity earlier on. This is part and parcel of how we build capacity and skills.
And I just want to understand in terms of, the impact of AI search on the publishers. What is that? What are you hearing?
Yeah, the one of the media inquiry pieces was around traffic. They see decreased traffic based on AI overviews, right? They see a reduced amount of traffic, going directly to their websites. I don't want to get too technical about it, but there's a component of it which is around how those websites effectively serve up on search engines and how they show up, right? And it's a function of understanding how to optimize search queries, right, for themselves, right, in terms of keywords and keyword searches. That's one. AI overviews also in terms of when you kind of produce that summary, there's also links that underpin that, right, in terms of the different rankings from the search engine perspective. And there's a process there which we need to educate them about, where people bid to be kind of ranked higher, right? And most of the time in sort of like these media agencies, it hasn't been a big focus area, and it's one that I guess now, because of how the world is moving, it's a capability that has to be built so that they can direct more traffic towards their websites and their portals. So it's kind of to keep it high level, it's kind of what we're busy with to help them with that journey. Yeah.
And the reception from the publishers, like, what is it? How's it?
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. In actual fact, when we had our AI in Action summit last year, we had a focused session for publishers and media houses that was just around how do they effectively take advantage of AI tools, from things like using Notebook LM, for instance, for research purpose, or even deep research, right? To Gemini queries and search queries, etc. Those were part and parcel of the conversation there, and it was well received. People were pleasantly surprised at how useful these tools can be in kind of enhancing their craft.
And this will be a continued effort from a Google perspective.
Oh, we are on the hook for the next 3 to 5 years. No doubt about that. Yeah. So we've signed up. We are committed. We've started to do what we need to do, both in terms of the grants that are given, but also in terms of reaching those target audiences. The biggest challenge is like those community radio stations and publication houses. Those are the most difficult to reach, but they're in scope for what we wanna do, and we're happy to do that. Yeah.
Just maybe as we wrap up, just to hear from you in terms of looking at regulation and global platforms that operate in South Africa. Do you believe that the regulation landscape is becoming hostile, or what are your thoughts around that?
Look, I don't think it's necessarily becoming hostile. I think there's a lot of support that the regulators need from tech companies such as ourselves in order to make sure that whatever regulation gets, designed, which is a necessary thing, does not inadvertently create barriers to entry or barriers to the use of these technologies. We've seen this, in other parts of the world, in Europe with GDPR and laws around privacy and the use of people's data, whether it's PII data, personal identifiable information or not. Privacy remains a central concern for communities and the public at large. The use of these technologies and let's call it concerns around their impact. There's a raging debate also where people are starting to use AI agents as their, let's call it, personal companions, right? To seek anything from medical advice to advice around relationships, for an example, right? And our models intentionally, what we've put guardrails in terms of responsible use of these AI tools, such that when it detects that there's a dependency that is developing with the user, it will actually send a recommendation for them to seek help, right? So incorporating things like that, and then making that, by extension, making that as part and parcel of legislation to say, if you are in this space and you are, basically providing these types of services and these types of tools, you also need to have these checks and balances and provide support for people that may develop, whatever dependencies they may have based on their state of mind or state of being, etc., is important. And that's the work we're doing with not just the academic fraternity, but also directly with working with government.
Sounds good.
Yeah. It's a lot.
I can imagine. Kabelo, thank you for your time,
thank
and your insightful for your insights around what Google South Africa is doing, and where the company's going in the next 3 to 5 years.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
I'm gonna call you Sim if you don't mind.
That's what everyone calls me. That's what everyone calls me. It's all right. Thanks, Kabelo.
Thank you.
That was Kabelo Makwane. He is the Google South Africa country director. For more on these, click here.